hot dogs.
That sounds, where did you get that from? You're on. You're on.
All right, we ready? Let's go to work.
Guys, everybody. Welcome to the Hillsdale Public Meeting. Why does everybody stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the meeting. I'm going to turn on my microphone here. Make sure I'm good. Okay. This is a meeting of the Hillsdale Borough Council on this 11th day of March, 2025. Notice of the time and place of this meeting has been provided to the Ridgewood News and the Bergen Record. A copy was posted on the bulletin board outside of this meeting room and provided to any interested parties. Please silence all cell phones, which I will do now if I haven't. Please wait to be recognized by the mayor during the public hearing and the public comment part of the meeting. You will need to state your name and town of residence for the record. I'm silenced. Okay, will the clerk please read the roll?
Council President Oso?
Here.
Councilmember Coletti?
Here.
Councilmember Fox?
Here.
Councilmember Mazachong? Here. Councilmember Rucco?
Here.
Councilmember Trohimuk? Here. Mayor Scheinfeld?
Here. Okay, we're going to start with the initial public comment section. It's limited to 3 minutes. Items on the agenda only. One topic per speaker. Again, state your name and town of residence for the record. Would anybody like to speak on an item on the agenda tonight? Okay, seeing none. Oh, we do have. Oh, okay, please, come on up. You're hiding back there.
I was. My name is Craig Cardell, 5 Grove Street. I am the current president of the Football and Cheer Association. Good evening. Thank you very much for having us. I would just like to say I'm here on behalf of the Hawks Football and Cheer Association, and we want to express our full support for the Memorial Field project, regardless of whether it includes the lights. While the lights will be a tremendous benefit to the athletes in the community, our priority is ensuring that this project moves forward. The Memorial Field is an essential space for our young athletes, and we are grateful for the investment being made to improve it. We look forward to seeing this project come to life and continuing to provide a great experience for our players and families, and we thank you for your time and commitment to our community. So, in all honesty, thank you very much. For 100%, we're backing this, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Would anybody else like to be recognized? I promise if I see your hands, I will call you. Please. Okay. Please come up. Can you come up and state your name for the record?
Lorraine Thalman, Liberty Avenue, Hillsdale. Right now, I'm about 2 blocks away from Memorial Field. I think there's a little too much planned for that area. You want to put pickleball in. Pickleball is noisy. It's going to disturb all the residents in the area. You want to put new basketball. Basketball, we already have 5 basketball hoops at the middle school. Very rarely used. I travel that street all the time. It's not used that much. The other thing you want to do is put together, besides the baseball there, you want soccer, you want football, you want a walking path around it. It's a lot for a small area, and the residents are going to get hurt by it. We have Beechwood Park across the street, which has a playground already. If you need to expand it for ADA compliant, you have the room there. You already have a baseball field there. They play football in that area, and they do have lighting there. People use Beechwood Park, the nature trails. You have people that walk around Beechwood Park. You have people that jog Beechwood Park. The track team trains around Beechwood Park, up Liberty and down Hillsdale Avenue. So you have a lot of use there. As far as pickleball, I don't see why the high school tennis courts can't be striped for both the tennis and pickleball. You also have pickleball down by Wooddale Park. So there are other areas for people who would like pickleball that won't disturb the neighborhood. And that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Are you timing? You are? Okay. Who else would like to speak? Anybody? There you go, one at a time.
Good evening. Dave Williams, 15 Cedar Lane. I have a couple things. First and foremost, I want to thank the mayor and council for my wife's, Mary's, nice retirement get-together. Thank you, Denise. Secondly, regarding Memorial, I am a volunteer football coach at the high school. I've been involved in that program for about 20 years now, and I will tell you that I have seen a lot more injuries because of turf than when we had grass. So I would, if whatever's going to be done at Memorial, I think it should be grass. I think we can hire some good people for the DPW that can take care of our fields. We're spending a lot of money already this year on Centennial. Stony Brook Field used to be used for soccer and lacrosse. How come that's not being used anymore? I just think it's overboard for Memorial. I could see leveling the field, make it in a nice grass field, keep the ball fields the way they are, keep it the way it is, and I think all the residents in the area would be happy with that, and I think it'll service the town well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Come on, Mrs. Martin, let's.
Kristen Martin, 219 Washington Ave. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone because I feel like you have definitely been listening to everybody and trying to find some sort of resolution that will make everybody happy, and I think that that speaks volumes to you putting the community first. And I also want to thank Mike for all of your hard work yesterday dealing with that very
Thank you.
potentially tragic car accident or
Thank you.
bus accident. I just wanted to bring up 2 quick points, and in light of that, I know this is all little stuff, I do want to make sure we keep in mind the men's softball teams, because that's a big thing in our town, and that's primarily on that field. So whatever we do, I want to make sure that those are the people, those are the adults that are paying the taxes. I want to make sure that the field is still going to be, especially with the middle school field, probably not being available for several years. I do want that to be a focus on whatever decisions are made. And the other thing that I've spoke to in the past is I do want a real kind of deep dive into the dangers of turf, because the more I research, the more it makes me nervous, and the more I'm concerned about us potentially putting ourselves in a situation where we can be sued for injuries or long-term toxic, and also trying to get rid of this in 7 to 10 years when we're still paying it off probably doesn't make much sense. So just the whole turf thing, I don't know how well that sits with me. But thank you again for all you're doing, and I appreciate all your time.
Thank you. Well, I'll get you next, Rick.
Hi, I'm Robin Carter. I live at 74 Washington Avenue. So, yeah, the same concerns I think that people have been saying about the turf. I think I worry about also the turf in the waterways, as well as the turf in terms of kids getting hurt. We have a lot of water that comes through our town, and especially in this new climate that we live in. I worry about the plastic, the microplastics getting into the waterways. I know there's also no definitive proof that, childhood illnesses are related to AstroTurf, but there has been correlation and conversation around that. I don't know that we know the answers to that, but those are some of the concerns just about putting more kind of plastic that's into the environment that will get in our waterways and things like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick? Next.
Rick Savino, 64 Westdale Avenue. I was going to wait till the second round, but after a few people spoke, I want to thank everyone for all the work. But the engineers have delivered a plan that has a lot of options, and I think that leaves a lot of room for the council to compromise, put in some elements, omit other elements, but come to a final project for this park that does need to be It needs a new surface. All our parks need a new surface, but to come to a plan that we could do all the parks. So I just, I want to encourage you to compromise this plan. Don't listen to everyone on one side or the other, and think about the parks, the ADA accessible playground that people are asking for, the community center that's going to have to be furnished within a year or two. I'm sure that's a significant expense, putting everything in there. So let's, find that compromise and do it for the entire community, not 2 leagues, of a handful of kids. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, guys. Gary Garzaro, 69 Crosley Terrace. My concern is about the expenditure of that kind of money when I don't really feel it's needed. I had 4 kids. They all played every sport imaginable. I played softball there. My kids played football, baseball, lacrosse, everything you could imagine. My kids played and we used and enjoyed. And the biggest problem at the time was the unplayability of Centennial, which you guys are already addressing. I think that will go a long way towards addressing any field shortages, especially with the money that we need to spend on George White. I think that we really don't need to spend that kind of money on this kind of a project. Now, if you wanted to make some improvements, I'd be in favor of that. Maybe do a little regrading, fix the grandstand that's been closed for 3-4 years, clean up the basketball courts, maybe some new hoops. One of them is bent. But I would be in favor of that. But a project like that I don't think is really necessary for us to keep our kids active and to make, maximum use for anybody who wants to play that can do so. So thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to be heard? Come on forward. You got it.
Good evening. Marty Ward, 47.
Whoop.
I killed it.
Hold it.
Marty Ward, 47 East Liberty Avenue. I'm calling. My question is, I know you folks are going to tell me you have nothing to do with the schools. We just spent $60 million on a school system, on a new school, that we all know is going to cost more than $60 million. There's tariffs every day on something. Now we're talking $10 million for a field. We're all getting out of the same pocket. Everybody, you can say you're not responsible for the schools, but everybody here is paying for everything. So there has to be some pullback somewhere, or else there's going to be nothing left. I mean, it just came out in the papers the other day that towns around us are the most taxed in Bergen County. Rivervale, Westwood. Do we want to make that list too? I think to keep Hillsdale. What?
We did make the list, just a little further down.
A little further down. Okay. Well,
We're up there.
I missed that part. But my point is
Shouldn't
that
have mentioned it then, maybe.
my point is that somebody has to start saving somewhere. Once we know what's going to happen in a couple of years, this project makes plenty of sense. But right now, it's not the right. If you owned a house, are you going to start rebuilding a house today? I don't think so. We've got to rebuild California, West Virginia, and we can't get anything from Canada because Trump's going to put a tariff on it. So I really think you got to rethink this whole project at this point. I love sports. In my day, I did play. But one of the best parts of playing was coming home dirty. So I'd just like to leave it at that. And one other thing that I don't think I've seen addressed anywhere is the soft shoulders on Hillsdale Avenue on either side of the park. When people, even though the signs say no parking, people do park there, and it's all rutted up. So if you are going to continue this park project, you've got to think of some way to either pave that all over or put rocks so people can't park their cars on it and drive away with big holes in it. It's something that happens if you leave here and go down Hillsdale Avenue today and look on the left side, there's at least 6 or 7 tire ruts from people making U-turns or God knows what the hell they do. Okay. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Sorry. You got it? Okay.
Thank you.
Travis? Well, somebody else like to be heard? Yep. Yeah.
Audra Landau, Hillsdale resident.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to start tonight by highlighting a viable alternative to the environmental and health and safety issues of the artificial turf and microplastics. There is an expert in Mass who has effectively developed a natural grass field that is more durable, pesticide and plastic-free, and requires less rest time and dries out easily. He maintains 13 to 15 busy sports fields with himself and a staff of 1 in the busy season. He is willing to share his knowledge and techniques to help other communities. No different than big tobacco back in the day, being forced to own up to their harmful aspects of their product and coming out with natural cigarettes or light version, it didn't change the fact that their product was a health hazard. Turf companies today are being forced to own up to the harmful aspects of their product, so they are making some modest changes. It doesn't change the fact that their product is a potential health hazard, and having that position is at best premature. And the question we should really be asking ourselves is, do we want our young children to be the proof and test studies for the future arguments at a town hall? I think we all would tend to agree there's been a lot of young parents speaking to the need for a turf field. But I know if I share the content about the dangers our children were exposed to, there would be at least twice the number of parents that would be standing here to say, we never want another turf field added to our neighborhood. In closing, my son is now past the age of choice of turf affecting his health. But as a resident and a mother, I would have done anything to have had a mother ahead of me willing to do the research, advocate for the children's health that poses even the slightest chance to the exposure of microplastics and PFAS, also known as the forever chemicals, and all those that may be forever impacted. I can provide any of the supporting articles and videos upon request, and that's the update to what we talked about last week.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Dewey?
I think it's my turn to speak. Dewey Burleson, Harrington Street. Most of you know me. I was chairman of planning board. I was chairman of Parks and Rec. We looked at a plan like this 6 years ago without spending money for the engineer, just a couple of notes back and forth. We decided that Memorial Field was a park with fields, and our real sports complex was up at Centennial, and that's where our money should go, though we wanted a level field. I'm not anti-turf, even though we still have turf toe from 40 years ago. I believe baseball is best played on grass. These are some statements. I am happy to see us spend money, right? I've been a champion. I have arrows in my back from 5-6 years ago trying to spend $2.5 million. My real concern with this project is I don't want to put all our eggs in a basket. We have a lot of other things to do up at Centennial. We have to fix the parking. We have to do a lot of work around to make it better. And I just don't want to lose that money. My real concern here is lights. When we looked at this 6 years ago, all rec people, positive youth football, lights do not belong in this residential community. It doesn't. You're going to affect everybody, and I think it'll come before the planning board. You're going to take value out of these people's houses. The problem I have with that is the design without lights doesn't work so well. We were looking at a design where both men's softball and baseball could play at the same time with an 80-yard field. I don't think that was explored enough. That's where we're at. I said no lights, but then with no lights, this is not a good design, and that's up to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing once, twice, gone. Okay, we have no correspondence. Okay, so we're going to move on to the professional monthly report, the Hillsdale Police Department, Lieutenant Travis Woods.
Test. All right, we're good. Hi, Travis Woods. I'm a lieutenant with Hillsdale Police. Just go over January and February combined. First and foremost, our community policing unit. We had a snow tubing with a cop event that took place up in Mawa. That was Police Officer Bruce that headed that. We conducted multiple Girl Scout tours. Officer Alfieri takes the lead on those. We had a police department coin toss at a kids soccer game at Pascagoula Valley High School. Officer Bruce, Maro, and Kim helped out there. Hillsdale Police took part in a polar bear plunge down in Seaside, ran by P.O. Godomsky. We kicked off our DARE season at the schools, and we're teaching there pretty much weekly. Sergeant Sayers and Officer Alfieri will be in the schools doing that. Some things on the horizon. We're preparing for National Night Out in August, first Tuesday of August. We're preparing for the Youth Leadership Academy. If anyone has kids within the age range, we'll be sending out notification for that. It's going to be in June. And we're going to be doing a 5K at the farm event. That's going to be up on the farm. That's going to be in June, in the beginning of it. I don't have the exact date yet. As far as traffic goes, we conducted in January, February, 181 motor vehicle stops, responded to 46 motor vehicle accidents, 25 parking enforcement details, and 13 selective enforcement details. The Detective Bureau, 69 cases investigated, 41 investigations closed, and 12 charges as a result. And last but not least, our firearms unit conducted 25 investigations pertaining to firearms, carry concealed, pistol permits, and so forth. That's it. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions of the lieutenant? No? Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Interim Superintendent, DPW Barry Peterson.
Okay, so for the March month of February and beginning of March, the parks and fields, they're still closed as we tend to the baseball preseason. We put some shelving in Memorial Fieldhouse for recreation since they were moved from the DPW second floor when we made the switch to mechanics. Just waiting. The ground is thawed now. We were waiting on the ground to thaw to install some new signage on either end of Beechwood Park for the Environmental Commission. Seasonal meters are going in next week for the field houses, which after that will be up and running for their practicing and whatnot. Next week, I'm expecting 25 tons of ball field clay and another 25 tons of the warning track material for our fields. Borough Hall, we fixed some heating issues with the heating for the council chambers. The New Jersey Urban Community Forestry accomplishment report was filed. We are still on that list for grant monies. Last Friday was a big one. It was a busy day for us. We removed a fallen tree that came down prior to the end of the school day. A highly trafficked area by kids walking and parents driving. And I believe there's an article I saw in the paper. We did save the borough about $7,000 on an emergency cleanup for a tree.
You've taken away from my comments. I was going to thank you for it. So thank you. But you'll
You're
do it
welcome.
again later if you want to stick around.
We've replaced 2 street lights. One was over by a Quick Shop, I think it is. Not Quick Check, it was the other.
Oh, right.
There was one that was broken there. We replaced that. We fixed one on Broadway by the Butcher. We've replaced some faded signs and broken signs due to motor vehicle crashes. The big one is the flashing crosswalk sign by the library. I'm just waiting on the delivery of some parts for that. Once they come in, that will be repaired.
Do you have a temporary one up there with no flashing?
Right now, there's a temporary with no flashing. One sign flashes, the other side doesn't.
Okay.
But once those parts come in, everything will be working as it was. The Veterans Park was decorated for the Ramadan season, which was the first, and I was very excited to do that for
for the rest of our community. Potholes have been filled and continuing to be filled. We just replaced 2 sewer rings, 1 sewer cover. One was on Wyndham, one was on Willowbrook. We had 3 snow and ice events that we took care of. We began cleaning basins and repairing stormwater basins. The big one, Centennial Field, just received 100 tons of the ball field clay today, and I have 4 pallets of the turfus sitting on our garage inside. So as soon as they're ready to start working, we can bring that up, and that project will commence. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for the interim superintendent? No? Okay, I'm sure that Nick can give us the update on that field at some point. I'm not going to give the second for when they're going to start going, because we're going to go back now to our business administrator, our borough administrator, to discuss what's up on the screen here, Memorial Field. So take it away. It's all you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, council members, the staff and the professionals and the volunteers have been working on Memorial Field Plan for over a year now, with numerous town hall meetings, committee meetings, presentations to the public, and feedback from the public. We've spent already about $50,000 to date on this plan, just as a concept. As your business administrator, it's my responsibility to run the day-to-day operations and the finances of the town in an effective and responsible manner. I've directed our staff and our professionals to stop making any changes or work on the Memorial Field Plan with all the different options until the governing body, you, makes a decision on what you want to do. Turf or no turf, lights or no lights. We don't want to spend time and money on changes to a plan that you may not approve, or that you don't want. This presentation will give you all the options to choose what you want me and the staff to spend our time on, so we can perfect it and take it to the next steps. Tonight, you are not committing to spending anything. Once your decision is made, we will have to take out a bond. We will have to pass a bond ordinance to allow to spend the money. Those are done in public hearings with voting on it and feedback from the public. We do not have to spend the entire amount of the bond. For example, if we take out a $5 million bond during the course of the planning and the bid process, the bids may come lower than $5 million, just like in Centennial, where we planned $600,000 and the bid came at $374,000. That's how much we took out. That's how much money we would take out if the bids come lower. If the bids come higher than we planned, then we just don't accept the bid, and we go to rebid with a different plan. So there's no commitment to spend anything tonight. You are committing to moving with this project in a specific way. That's all there is to it for tonight. We will have a resolution for the different options with and without. The presentation you'll see, we will have it available to the public on the website tomorrow. And there is a calendar that we have to follow based on what we want to do. So if you say, go forward with whatever options you choose, we have to do a bond ordinance in April, introduction. We have to approve it in May. Those two are in public. The public can talk about that and give your opinion, as well as the council members, of course. Then we do an ordinance in April, and introduce it. This takes us to May, maybe June. We are looking to also bundle the fire truck, some more capital projects into one bond, so we get the best rate. So in 2021, you raised your taxes by $500,000 to spend on the fields. The idea was to put that money into a fund and use that fund to fix all the fields. That money was spread out into the general fund. In 2024 is when we brought everything into one fund. So in 2024, there was $1.8 million. 200,000 of that was spent, 200 of the 2 million was spent on Centennial prior to 2024. $115,000 spent to date on environmental testing and engineering. And we have $90,000 encumbered to be spent this year also on environmental engineering and supplies. So the current funds available, the current amount of money in the bank right now in cash is the $1,684,297. We have access to that cash anytime we want. We don't need a bond, a loan, that's it. $500,000 will be put into the fund this year in 2025, brings us to $2.184 million available at the end of this year, once the budget passes and the fund is completed. So without a tax increase, we have access to 2.184. At Centennial, we will be taking out $450,000, $374 for the work, and then there is also the engineering, and there's more work that we have to put into it that brings it to $450. We're fixing Cora and Knickerbocker for $40,000. That's what Barry was talking about, 100 tons of clay and the infields. Environmental, we have to do 4 times a year the testing we have to by DEP rules for $50,000, and then $75,000 as an estimate for an annual maintenance plan. That could be less than $75 for Centennial only. So that's $615. For Beechwood, we're putting aside $300,000 for field improvement. We may do it this year if we have time. If not, we will have access to $300,000 to do the improvement there, and $10,000 for maintenance plan. So $925,000 is what is going to go into the fields this year. That leaves us with $1.259 million in the fund after we fix Centennial, the Beechwood, and the maintenance plan for both fields. What can we afford and how we're going to finance all this? Based on zero tax increase, using the current fund, that's the 1.2 million, and to continue to put $500,000 into the fund every single year until you decide that you want to stop. Assuming a 3.5% interest, a down payment on 1.2 million, a 15-year bond, a 4.6 loan, a bond, and leave $100,000 for the annual maintenance. We can afford $5.8 million on the improvement. This would go. Yes, sir.
To make it clear that, so the 5.8 is what can be spent without any additional taxes, not based upon the budget we're going to introduce, but based upon the $500,000 that we generate. We don't have to add any income, any additional taxes to do this without raising taxes. That's the amount.
So the $5 million, we would put down 1.2 million, borrow 4.6 million, and that will give us $400,000 a year for 15 years. That leaves us with $100,000 for the maintenance and anything else that we want to do.
Okay.
If you want to spend more, we have to raise taxes. This is your ceiling, $5.8 million.
Okay. Just want to make sure we have that on.
So what can we get for $5.8 million? That means no lights, that's $1.4 million less. No playground equipment, that's $500,000. We can do a grant and we can go for donations. And no coach's box for $200,000. That's about $6 million if you were to calculate. So we're off by about $200,000. The 3.5% interest rate is on the high side. So at 5.8, we feel very comfortable that we can deliver what you see on the screen, everything in that. We're not showing the exact prices next to this because we may go to bid and we don't want to jeopardize the bidding process. Now, the field that you see on the right is what you have seen in the last few times. We have taken out the parking from the streets. So there's almost 90 parking spots on here. So all the parking will be contained inside the field. You will get the 2 basketball courts. You'll get the platform for the playground, but not the actual equipment. And then the field itself, the field house, we would have to spend additional money to fix it. There's no money in it to fix the field house right now. There's 2 ways in and out. We have to get the approval of the counties. There are cameras for security, and there are walkway around the entire perimeter. Now, there are sharp corners, there are different colors. This is just a concept. That's where the rest of the work will be done once you decide that, yes, you do want that. Now, if you want to have lights, and if you want to have the playground and the coach's box, and you want the whole thing in, that will cost you $7.9 million, which will be approximately $50 more per year per average household for the life of the bond. It's the same exact what you want on here, but it has everything included. Now, there was a question, a request to compare natural grass and the turf field. This is based on a sample of 100,000 square foot footprint in a sample without any amenities. So this is just the turf. This is just the drainage below it, just to make it operational. The turf field would cost $2.8 million. The natural grass is $2.35 million. We still need the drainage. That's where the cost is. Over the 10-year life cycle, the maintenance cost of the turf is 3.47, and of the natural grass is 3.35. The turf that we're using here, the model is Field Turf Classic HD. It's not the Ferrari. It's not the Yugo. If you remember the Yugos, it's in the middle. It's in the middle. So this is with an infill. It has rubber, and it's what they use in high schools all over the United States.
What's the infill?
Rubber.
The crushed rubber?
He said
This is the Classic HD
Right,
sample.
that's the crumbled rubber.
Right. I have one last slide before we go to questions from the council. Our next step, and what I really would like to come out from this meeting without having to go back in circles again, is to make a decision on where you want to go with this. So what I'm looking for the staff and for the professionals is a go or no-go decision. If it's without lights, without the playground, with turf, if you don't want turf and you want the natural grass. So with no tax increase, you'll get what's in the orange color with everything included and $50 additional per year. You get the lights and everything else. Now, as far as the type of turfs, there are different turfs, different costs. It's really not for this meeting right now to talk about which turf you want to use. You have to make a decision. You want turf or you don't want turf. You want lights at $1.4 million or you don't want lights. That's where we're at this point, and I really need a direction. I know the public. I mean, you've been coming to all these meetings. You want some closure on this, where we want to end up, and it's up to the council to decide on where you want to be. We have the attorney prepared 2 resolutions. We can make a hybrid. We can make a combination, but I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor. And you can poll the council if you wish, but we need to get some sort of enclosure on where we're going with this.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. I have several questions, but before I do, I want to open it up because I'm sure that my colleagues here are going to have some questions as well. We've got Nick here, and you can ask as well. Questions? Nobody have any questions?
Want to clarify something that you, Mr. Mayor, I think tried to clarify. I want to make sure I understood it. When this presentation talks about, in slide 3, funding plan without any tax increase, we're recognizing already that we have a tax increase for 2025 of 4.91%. Regardless of which plan we adopt, we have that
That's the municipal.
That's the municipal
budget
side,
introduction.
right. If we adopt either one of these plans, we're not forecasting, we know we can figure out through a bond amortization table what it's going to cost us. That may trigger additional tax increases down the road.
In the out year, probably not this
But
year.
our assumption has been all along that the revenue from the redevelopment project would cover that. We would be, basically what I'm saying is our CFO has tried to project out and has come to a conclusion that 5.8 is about the limit of our prudential experience. So why are we even talking about the more expensive one?
Because it's up to this governing body to determine if they want to exceed that.
Ah.
That's
Okay.
democracy.
Despite, the right to disregard your CFO's recommendation is not questioned here. I'm just saying,
Yes.
why would one want to do that?
His recommendation was to go with the one with no lights? Is that what you're saying?
His recommendation was to stop at 5.8. That was what he reasonably told us.
No.
We could, no?
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Your ceiling is 5.8 without any tax increase. You can spend, if you want, $10 million, there'll be a tax increase. With the lights and the additional, it will go to 7.9, which will be a tax increase. He gave you the ceiling at 5.8 with $500,000 going in every year. That's your ceiling, that's your limit, that's how much you can spend without any tax increase.
Right, and he, because of other things in our budget and his forecast, felt that that was the prudent approach.
I think it was more along the lines of he was instructed to give us a revenue neutral proposal, and then from there, it becomes, we could spend 5.2, 5.1, we could spend 6, whatever. That's why we're here tonight.
We can spend whatever we like.
That's right.
Right. I'm just pointing out that we have a tax increase already in the budget for 2025.
Yes.
We have a forecast of what we might be facing down the road with increased costs of health insurance and a variety of other things, and what our CFO has recommended to us based on those functions, not to go over the stay within the 5.8.
Look, I understand. I guess we're kind of in a bit of semantics here, because he was instructed to come up with a plan to spend the money without exceeding, without requiring an additional tax increase. So, as a baseline, because I talked to him about that, and then if we want to go beyond that, that's what this governing body is here for. So I'm not presuming one way or the other. I understand. Jeanette, you had something you wanted to?
Well, I just wanted to comment on that. I think you using the word recommendation is the issue. That he's not giving a recommendation, he's giving a fact. He's saying, based on this amount of money that was raised, that is raised from the 2021 tax increase for the fields, we will produce that $500,000. Factually, if you stick with that, then this is what you can afford, $5.2 million. He's not recommending or not recommending, because first, that's not even his role to do that. But, so he's just taking these numbers and presenting facts to us. And then you can take that, and now you can add to it, subtract from it, do whatever the governing board would like to do to that fact. That's what I think is the issue of saying the word recommendation. He's not making a recommendation. He's just telling you a fact.
I have a slightly different understanding as the chair of the Finance Committee and meeting with him, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, you probably, if you poll the council, maybe one item at a time, turf or no turf, lights or no lights.
Well, we have more
After
questions.
that,
Well, we'll get to that, but I want to just...
Mike, we talked about this earlier. Within the presentation, you have identified slightly over $200,000 worth of maintenance. We have the 50, the 75,000 to get to 125. If there's any work that's done at Beechwood, it'll get us to 135, plus the 10-year run rate of implementing an artificial turf field would bring you another 65,000 once you cancel out the year one cost, right? You've identified $100,000 within the financing that we would have available to spend on maintenance, right? That extra $100,000, would that be taken out of the operating plan, going forward?
So these
or-
numbers.
No, it's annual.
No, so,
Yeah.
so right now, we do some maintenance, and we use our own DPW folks. We buy supplies and equipment from the operational budget. They're not taken out of the fund. So that's a whole different calculation. What I'm
Right.
showing you in here, 75,000 annual maintenance and 10,000 for Beechwood, is 95,000, 85,000 for the maintenance of the two fields.
Plus the 50 for the DP, right? Which
Yeah.
hopefully goes away in 3,
So-
4, 5 years, right?
Yes, so that is 4 times a year right now. Next year, we're shooting for 2 times a year, and we're hoping the third year will be once a year,
Right.
depending on the methane reading. They've been getting low numbers, so we're on the right track. So that may go away by the second and third year.
Right. No, I'm just curious if we've accounted for how we're going to pay for that incremental 100,000 plus, and whether or not that's going to be captured in what we're spending today currently on those fields. Because also on slide number 7, you have, if you go to slide number 7.
Can't see the numbers.
And help me understand this, you have the Field Turf Classic, which I don't think it's the middle of the road, I think it's the bottom of the road in terms of what you're going to get. So I think that it's important to evaluate the other options for artificial turf and what the infield's going to be, whether it's going to be organic or a no infill product. I think that there's better options out
Sure.
there for the kids in the field, so that may have an additional incremental cost. But also you have the 2.8 million, which I believe is the year one sunk cost that you're going to have to experience. And then you have a 10-year life cycle maintenance cost of 3.47 million. The way I did this calculation was I took the 3.47 million, subtracted from it the 2.8, I got 670,000. I divided by 10, which gives me a $67,000 maintenance cost for that.
Right.
I mean, is that what we could expect for the facility? Is 60? I'm just.
So that's the value of the maintenance. So we could do that ourselves.
Okay.
There are machines that we can either rent, borrow, or actually buy, and they have to brush up every few months. So that maintenance, we could do that ourselves. But the value of that is what the maintenance is, what that 600,000 over the 10 years is. We can hire someone from the outside and pay it. Our plan is to actually use our own folks and our own machine.
Right.
And that's what the value is.
Okay.
Okay. Another questions? Anyone down? Have questions? I have some questions, but I'll.
Just one really quick, actually on this slide. So that 10-year life cycle maintenance costs on the natural grass, right? This is relatively a small field that's not going to get much rest. Does that take into account that the care to keep a field that won't, a grass field, natural grass field that won't get much rest, right? Normally that's substantially more in cost. What is the assumption there?
Are you asking the engineer?
I assume so. You're looking in my direction. So I can answer the question. So yes, it's assumed with normal wear, that cost. So obviously, if you were to overuse that field, that cost would increase because you'd be looking at potential sod replacements in certain areas, which costs additional money.
It takes down the field from use for a period of time.
Correct.
And one last question. With regards to the overall value of the turf, if we spend $1.2 million on it, over the 10-year life cycle, or if it's 12 years, if we use a different type of product, how do you reserve for the money for the replacement of that field and disposition? Do you reserve that money on an annual basis from year 1 to year 10 or 12, or do you, and you have to budget for that, or do you go ahead and assume that you're going to borrow that money while we still haven't paid off the 15-year note?
The latter. So you'd assume, so you'd either, if you have the money by then, you spend it, or you borrow to replace it. This is just to give you the field with maintenance, not after the 10.
Yeah, I just want to understand how we're going to handle it from a
separate.
financial perspective over the next few years, right?
Question, the 100,000 square foot sample, what is Memorial's size?
120,000.
All right, so it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Mike, can you tell me what's the age of the turf field at the high school now? Do you know? Does anybody know?
High school
old?
here?
Yeah, our Valley's got a turf field on it.
I don't know Valley, but I can tell you Fieldstone is 15 years old, and there's no plans to replace it for at least the next 2 years.
Okay. Do we know at the high school what the fill is?
And here I do not know. 6 years? So it's been 6 years old?
It's the second field. It's the second
Okay.
field.
All right.
But, and do we know what's the infill for it?
I believe it's the crushed rubber. It's from what
Okay.
my kids would play. They have also black people.
That's the most
Okay.
common.
So, as far as chemicals on turf field versus natural grass, people are obviously concerned about going home with little pellets here. Is there a downside chemical exposure to natural grass? And if so, sort of how does that balance out with turf?
The natural grass has, so if you wonder why the fields look so lush and green and our backyards don't look the same, it's all the extra pesticides and all the extra chemicals going into the natural grass. The turf, it's been used everywhere, and if your kids play soccer, play sports, they have played on a turf field somewhere over the years. We did send you all a few links and copies of studies from both sides. If you ask the field folks, the field is okay. If you ask the natural grass is okay. So we sent you so you have copies of the reports from the Environmental Commission, their statements and their links to the studies. We have links from the engineers on both sides, and I believe we also sent you links from the manufacturers, which probably biased, I don't know. But no matter who you ask, there's always one side or the other.
Moving off from that for a second, we've got an ADA space for a playground.
Yes.
The idea is that we would be seeking matching grants of some sort from the county to do open space, and that would be financed over 1 or 2 or several years to get the necessary funding and figure out how we minimize our match. Put that up there?
There is an opportunity for a donation and then or sponsorships in addition to the grant.
But we don't, so is there a plug number, or we're not even?
No, we're just giving you the platform right now. So you'll have a platform ready for the equipment.
Okay.
I got one more.
Go ahead.
Mike, in the event that when we go to bid, we find that we achieve a great deal of favorability with regards to the bidders, and this comes in 15, 20% less. Whatever option that is selected, does that give us room to go ahead and add at that point? Or are we precluded into doing what we say that we're, as far as this is concerned?
Got it. So the bid specs will be very specific, and the contractors, so it's very specific to the inch and the colors. And that's how the contractors are going to do their analysis and come up with a number. If now we can have an alternate bid, we would have a bid and we'll say this is what we want. If we get less, there's an alternate bid, a second bid, and say, okay, how about this bid now? That's very common. So yes, we can add in a separate bid.
So we can add on to it?
A separate bid,
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Additional questions?
I think, Mike, one of my questions is regarding the lights. Regarding the lights, are there any internal departments in the municipality that have pushed for the lights?
Internal, like the Recreation Commission?
Rec department, anyone?
No one from the commissions or the boards have recommended collectively to say, we recommend lights or no lights. The only suggestions and feedback have been from the public, and I give you kudos, folks. I mean, you've been, very consistent on this on both sides. But as far as internal, no, we have no direction internally from any of the boards or the committees, not even the Fields Committee.
Okay.
So you need to decide if you want natural or turf.
before we get to that, can I assume that we're up here with the idea that everybody wants to do something here, right? I mean, that's what we're
a good
we're
question.
talking about here, right? Is everybody in favor of moving forward with something?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we might as well hit the first two big items, because that's going to dictate everything else that we do.
I would do them separately first.
No,
and then-
obviously do
yeah.
them separately. So we've got the choice between turf and natural grass, and can I get, by a show of hands, who is in favor of natural grass? One natural grass. And who is in favor of doing a turf product of some sort?
Is there-
One,
is there
two,
discussion,
three,
though?
four. What?
Is there a discussion?
We can certainly have a discussion on it, sure. So-
So certainly, certainly in favor of turf, given, again, we're trying to get the most we can out of this very large investment we're making.
Speaking to the.
Yeah, I don't think
Put your mic
is your
on.
mic not on?
However, I think we should have the ability to push for one of the more, right? We know that there's studies on both sides, right? Depending on who we're getting studies and information from, they're on completely different ends of the spectrum, which is probably the most frustrating part of this process. However, we know there are alternatives out there, including this new product pivot that we've been studying, which has no infill, right? Which has the shock pad underneath. Yeah, there might be PFAS in the turf itself, but there's no added PFAS, right? There's no rubber inlay. I believe we should have the option, though, to push for that type of a turf in our decision here.
Wide open, agreed. If you decide on a turf and you want the best turf that we can get for the money that we want, that we have, 100%.
So that's obviously going to be a variable, and it's going to impact the cost. At that point, we'd have to come back and figure out, because we may not be able to do the Cadillac, the Mercedes, the Ferrari level of infill, or just, and still come within a 5.8 million
Correct.
number.
So that's work on us to start working on to get that product that you want. You don't want rubber, you don't want the infill. I mean, there's coconut, there's olive, there's cheese, there's all kind of stuff.
I'm getting hungry.
So we
Don't
still
eat
have
it.
work to do, but the direction you are going to give us at the end of this is look for turf. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's.
Next.
So the next question is going to be the lights. We'll just poll. Who is in favor of doing lights? Can we get a show of hands? 1, 2, 3. And those who are opposed to doing lights? 1, 2, 3.
Well, if we just have a moment for discussion.
Of course.
I'm fully supportive of Field Project the Memorial. I think it's prudent that we cap this thing at $6 million. There's a lot of stuff that we have to absorb in town. There's inflationary pressures. There's health insurance costs. There's a 4.9% increase in taxes that we're going to have coming down with this budget. We have the school tax levy that we're going to get hit with in August and then again in February. So I think that I'm all for spending money. I'm all for an alternative fill product for artificial turf to make sure we get the best of what we can. But I think it's, in my opinion, it's fiscally responsible to cap this thing at a certain number. That's the way I feel. I think my other council people have thoroughly researched this and evaluated this, and I expect them to make the decision that they feel best with.
One concession we can make, Mr. Mayor, is if you choose no lights, we can still put the conduits, we can still install it for future use if when we change the turf. Or
Does that require the digging of the pylons at that point?
No.
No, we can have it ready to when to be by the surface.
Does that add to the cost of the project?
Nick, there's two parts to that, right? You could pour the bases, which is the cement, or you could just run the conduits as opposed to adding the bases, right? The bases would add a significant cost, but the conduits wouldn't.
That's correct, yeah. The foundations are fairly expensive. It's quite a bit of concrete and reinforcement steel, so
And
I
that
mean,
would be dug 20 feet deep and 10 feet up, right?
It needs to be designed. It's heavily dependent on the types of soils that you have, so it's really hard to say. But those could be in the, say, like $500,000 cost range just for the foundations. That number could vary, but that's just like a ballpark order of magnitude. The conduit is not necessarily a substantial cost increase, especially if we're choosing to do different types of lighting throughout the site. So if we, for example, want to put in bollard lights around the pathways, surrounding the perimeter, just some small decorative lighting, we would need to install electrical for that anyway. So just having the conduit in place to put in future lights would not be too big of a lift for the contractor.
But to be clear, though, by putting in the conduits now, right, for a fairly small expense, we're setting up the potential of the future for success if administration and community wants the lights. You don't have to tear up that field
That's
to
correct.
put in the lights at that point.
It's fairly
so we're setting up the future for success if that's the route.
It's fairly difficult to do afterward if you haven't done it during the initial construction, yeah.
I have a question actually for Councilman Coletti. If you're thinking or are interested in the lights, isn't this on?
It's on, but it doesn't hit the board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, speak into it.
If you're interested in the lights in the future, then am I assuming that you don't want the lights now because of the cost of the lights? Is that the reasoning, or because I have some thoughts or ideas on the concept of the cost, so I'm just curious why you're thinking in that way.
Well, I'm curious as to why you'd want them.
I can't hear you.
Why would you justify the lights?
Why would I want the lights? I would want the lights because I think that well, I have a whole written thing here that I thought we were going to kind of get to say, and so I guess I could sort of say it right now.
Why
and
not?
that'll justify my position on what,
We'll
what
make
I
council
wanted
commentary
to.
that much shorter.
It's okay, yes, actually, but I think it's more important to say it now
I do too.
because it may make someone think differently about
Okay.
something. So, as I said that before, that the taxes for this project were raised in 2021, right? Resulting in a certain amount of revenue that's coming in every year. And that's that $500,000 figure that you keep hearing. In addition, the Patterson Street development is expected to come online at some point in late '26, probably expected to be bringing in approximately $1 million of tax revenue in 2027.
But we can't.
In
we can't
addition,
assume those there's so many expenses to
hold on,
offset.
hold on. In addition, we have a storage facility that is also being put in, and that's supposed to be coming, that should be producing about $234,000 of additional revenues to the town. So looking at these numbers that are to be coming in, and yes, surely knowing that there are other expenses in the town that will increase over the years, whether it's health insurance, whether it's police costs, whether it's a slew of other operating costs that continue to grow continuously in any town. Surely out of this increased revenue of the million plus, say the 234 expected over the next 2-3 years, we could carve out a $50 per household, grab a piece of that to put towards this field. And why do I think the field should have lights is because I think that just as we have the pool in this town that everyone has referred to as a gem, everyone says, oh my God, the pool is such a gem in this town. The same way I think that this field will also be a gem in this town, another gem to add in this town. And I think the way that it will become a gem is by having this beautiful facility that we've envisioned for years, as is depicted in this picture, that we want the lights, the walking path, the diamonds for playing the softball, the baseball, the football people being able to play on it. So I think this is just another asset, another gem. In addition, the George White, what is being done to George White, that's just another gem that's being added to the town. I think, and then the downtown rehabilitation that we want to do is even more of a gem that we want to add. And so my point is, all of these gems that we want to keep adding to the town is in fact making this town more attractive and more desirable to young families that are moving in. And so, and they're looking for amenities. They're looking for this type of stuff when they're looking at the school system, they're looking at the parks, they want to see what your sports programs are. Do you have, the swimming pool? What do you have in this town? So I think by increasing the desire, it will increase ultimately the real estate value of the homes in this town. And it will make people want to come here. It'll be a destination town. So that's my perspective on why I think this project is important to the whole town of Hillsdale and what it's bringing to the table. And so to me, to keep pushing things off that maybe next year, maybe in 2 years, when we can afford it because we're so poor and we can't have $50 extra to pay for this is just mind-blowing to me and practically offensive, really, at this point, because this has been a topic of discussion for years. And I think that this is what should be built for this town. And that's my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Can I add to that?
Thank you.
Please. Just to piggyback off of her. So I was also going to save this for the closing remarks, but I guess this is the right time.
Yeah.
So, just have some notes. I just don't want to forget what I'm going to say. But first, I just want to acknowledge the passion and dedication from both sides of this conversation. I mean, we've heard residents concerned about how this will affect their quality of life, the lighting, the sound, the traffic. I understand. We also heard from the sports families who really, strongly support this field because it's a necessity, right, for our kids, for their community. And while I understand the concerns about change, I also recognize that this isn't a new discussion. We've had our residents come in who've said this has been ongoing for 30 years, which makes me ask myself, why haven't we progressed? Why are we still talking about this 30 years later? And why don't we have a town to fall behind, just reliable, modern space for, our kids to play? So, the reality is our town struggles. It really does with playable fields. I have 2 kids that get rained out, and they don't have that ability to play. So I really think a turf, multi-purpose field with proper lighting that extends usable hours, allows teams to practice safely, and ensures that we could support, all sports equally. And while I recognize there's no perfect solution, I do believe that this project does balance the needs of our athletes while also being mindful of everyone else.
Any others?
I'd like to present a little bit of a contrary view, if I might. Of course. And nephew, please let me finish. I don't find the case for the proposal to be compelling. It's no doubt that our fields and playgrounds need to be significantly improved, and I would vote for spending a good part of that 5.8, maybe all of it, to improve all of our fields. So it's not the money that I focus on so much. But among our sports leagues, the Hillsdale Football Organization has been the most vocal in the support of an artificial turf installation in Memorial Field, arguing that it would give them far greater opportunities to practice and play games under lights. But I believe it is a problem having lights at Memorial Field due to their cost and their intrusiveness to the residential neighborhood that surrounds the site. Now, up until tonight, the football coaches have said continually that if it wasn't with lights, it wasn't worth doing. I agree. Furthermore, I understand that there are fields in the area where football can run their practices and play home games, and I've talked to a number of people who have made that clear to me. I'm not sure whether, on the issue of artificial versus natural, that artificial turf is safe for our children. I've spent untold hours over the last 4 weekends reading about the different links and et cetera that were sent to the council, arguing for it, arguing against it. I've read about the heat differential, the PFAS contamination, the turf burns, harmful microplastics, stress on lower extremities, mold and feces on the field, recyclability and non-recyclability, the acceptance of artificial turf fields among many New Jersey municipalities. They've gone big time for it. The acceptance of artificial turf fields among them, and the growing realization that there's a trend now discovering that some of these fields may be harmful to the surrounding neighborhood and to the children, and with long-term environmental and health risks. I've read about the advantages for it allows more games to be played more intensively, and how it allegedly requires less maintenance than grass, although the numbers don't seem to bear that out. It may be cheaper in the long run, I don't know. But I'm not willing, personally, as a grandfather, to roll the dice on children's safety. My position is best captured, and I've researched this, it's best captured by the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, which was issued last year, so it's not an old number. Medical school recommended against the use of artificial turf due to the uncertainties surrounding its safety and the potential for dangerous heat and chemical exposure. Having spent approximately $850,000 to improve the drainage at Centennial Field, it can be used more frequently for soccer, lacrosse, and baseball. But I don't believe lacrosse has a dog in this fight at this moment. I say take the lion's share of the $5.8 million that would have been spent solely on Memorial Field and use it to enhance, resod, level, improve, and maintain all of our fields. And consult very closely with the Recreation Commission before we do that. Get their input in terms of what needs to be done. I think the 5.8 can certainly handle that. We would go out to bond for that money if we have to. Or if the Rec Commission comes back and says we don't need it, we might be able to do it simply with the addition of the $500,000 every year into the Field Improvement Fund. And we have to add an accessible playground for our handicapped children, which seems to be mentioned here, but I don't see any progress in terms of the borough actually moving ahead with that. I realize it could be part of a grant, but we're still looking for it. So I want to make sure that that's included in the program. And that's how I feel about it.
Now, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I want to apologize to Janetta for interrupting. I shouldn't have done that. Okay. I also want to say, when she started mentioning future revenues, I just don't like to make assumptions about what we are able to anticipate into the future until it actually gets realized. There are things on the docket there, obviously, in 2027 with regards to expected revenues from the Patterson Street development and the storage facility that hasn't been built yet. But there's a lot of expenses that will go along with that in future years. So, I believe the town needs financial flexibility into the future, and I wouldn't want to constrain us financially in any way so that we are able to do things, liberally, right?
Is there an appetite in the middle ground here for laying the conduits without doing the lights?
Yeah. So that's the concession is, if you say no lights right now, we can lay down the conduits, we can have the wires down. We can't put the foundation that's, as you said, 20 feet or so deep, and so that's so much money. And as Councilman Coletti said, in 10 years, if the community wants to have lights, the conduits are there already.
Or it wouldn't have to, that's an arbitrary number, but just at a future date with a future council.
Right. So right now you have 3 for lights and 3 against lights. Still the same?
Is that still the same
Still the same?
if we said we would do conduits and not, or does that change the equation at all?
No, I think the people who want lights now, it doesn't change anything for.
So it's still 3
people
to
who are
3.
voting against lights probably agree that it's the wisest thing to do at this point because it gives you a ton of flexibility down the road. And I don't even believe you have to put the wires in the conduit. You really just got to lay the conduits.
What is the difference in laying the conduit versus not laying the conduit financially?
Well, it's not a big difference. And like I said, we probably would end up doing decorative lighting around the site anyway, so you would need electrical.
So what
running
does
around the
not a
site.
big difference mean?
Not even
Give
a
me a
six-figure
number.
number.
Roughly,
I
what
don't
are we
think.
talking about?
I don't think you're even talking a six-figure number. I think it's
Under $100,000?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
But more than 50?
possibly. I don't know.
You're not willing. You're not willing to give a number.
Yeah, but Nick, what would it cost down the road to tear up the field to put the conduits in?
That is expensive because now you're talking about
That's a large
Yes.
six-figure number.
Yes.
If we
Right,
don't-
so
we don't
it's
do the
$50,000 to
conduits now,
$100,000
we'd have that.
is your hedge against that
That's what I'm
risk.
trying to get to.
Oh, there's no doubt if you think that you're going to put lights in.
Or you could.
If you could, but I think
At some point down the road.
since half the council wants the lights anyway, it probably
I just
captures
wanted
the
to ask the
sensitivity of the
question.
council to add the conduits.
Right.
I think personally it conveys the wrong message to the existing residents because it says, you know,
It's going to happen.
it's going to happen.
Years
Lights are
from
going to. We're mollifying you now, but we want to prepare for the lights.
So we have
Mayor,
three.
I think we're still in discussion, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
May I? Is that okay?
It's what?
Can I?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to respond, that's all.
Okay.
That's okay. Okay, so first of all, just to answer this specific question I was asked. As we all know, 2025 was a very, very difficult budget year for this town. 2026 right now is going to be even more difficult. Okay, we do not know the timing of when these redevelopment projects are going to come in, so that revenue is not guaranteed. And if the more expenses we commit to now, we increase the risk for the town, right? If those revenues do not come in, okay? But to give you an idea of the numbers that we're talking about, 4 years from now, between contracts that we're committed to, right, between police, between waste, we're looking at over $1 million incremental cost increase from where we are today. Mike, what is the expected revenues from the redevelopment project as of now that we know? Is it around $1 million?
About $1 million.
About $1 million. So that $1 million is pretty much almost appropriated already.
It's already accounted for.
Okay, so that has a lot to do with my decision here. Now, in terms of, I agree with the majority of what everyone on this dais has said already, right? But now it's putting it all together and making the best decision for the town. A couple comments here, because I think it's important. We really don't, to my knowledge, we don't have options in terms of the other fields, in terms of significant investment. We know the issues at Centennial, right? Beechwood, wetlands around it, not much we can do. Stony Brook floods. So this is the only option we have to give something to the residents in terms of a viable and prideful field. Okay, so I am all for this project. Okay, I am voting yes for $5.8 million. I believe this is long overdue, right? And I'm proud to vote yes for it, and I'll stand behind it. I do think we need to push for the most environmentally safe turf we can, right? There's a cost benefit to everything, and we'll have to go through that project. But that's why we have an administration, a CFO, et cetera. And achieving this field without raising taxes, which we've been working on for months right now, is quite a feat, and I think this field is exactly what this and I'll call it a great town needs. In regards to the lights, the financial cost all in with interest is $2 million, roughly, right? Unless we find a way to bring that down, of course. Okay, so $2 million for lights, which we have not had an internal department push for yet. So when I look at the residents in their eyes...
Excuse me, could you please turn off the light? It's going into people's faces. There's enough light around you that you don't have to do that. Well, okay. Well, okay, so that's fine, but you're putting it right in our eyes like this, so we're trying to get to it. Okay.
So, okay.
Hold on. This is not for either a show or for public dialogue. I believe Councilman Coletti, the mayor, are trying to make a point. The council is considering a difficult problem that I think you've all waited months for.
Years.
Okay, can we get to it then? All right, thank you so much.
Okay. So, personally, right, I feel right now that Lights is not in the plan at $2 million. However, we can set the future up for success by putting in the conduits. You might have a different temperature in the community. You might have a different temperature on the council. Maybe it comes to fruition, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but at least we set them up for success at a small price. The benefit of pushing this project through without the lights impacts football the most, right? Now, everyone in this room knows, right? I've coached, I'm all for the sports. Recreation is my #1 priority, okay? So we got to weigh the benefits that come out of this. So with this field, football still gets a home field for its games. Potentially, right, you have weekend practices, walkthroughs, etc. Soccer, lacrosse will now have another option in their arsenal to be able to choose from. Baseball and softball will have an extremely reliable and stable infrastructure, which they've never had before, right? So this is a game changer, right? I hate to be cliche-ish, but I wish that every war was won in a battle. This one's not. So we got to take this win right here, which is a very, very big win, and push it through. And I think I've justified why I'm not voting for the lights tonight. That's it.
So we have a 3 and 3, Mr. Mayor. It's up to you.
Well, mine is one of economics. I've said that as I've spoken to my colleagues up here on this dais, in that in 2021 we made a commitment when, and I was not on the board at the time, that we were going to create a revenue stream. We're going to, you'll be next. Sorry, officers, you'll get your, just trying to go through this. That, as Councilman Coletti said, we have made a commitment through referendum to the average household. It's going to be over $800 a year in those taxes. We're going to go up 4.7% in taxes next year.
4.9.
Well, but I mean, we take out the library, we take it down a little bit, because that's a set cost. So we're going to be raising that. Not only, and the school will also be raising taxes in there. So mine is one of an economic consideration, and not necessarily to say, well, lights or no lights at that. I just think that it's a big burden to put on people. I would be in favor of putting in the conduits, so that if we are finding ourselves in a different situation down the road, I would be in favor of doing that. I'd be in favor of putting that into the proposal for that reason. But if it has to be lights or no lights, I would have to vote no lights based on that.
So that
Okay.
question is resolved.
So we have, so to move
But
this
that is
along.
not, but that does not mean, I'm still very much in favor of the turf, of all the leveling and all the grading that we're going to do, and to spend the money that we have to get the best field that we can do for the money.
Okay. So to move this along, Mr. Mayor, we have a resolution. I'll get the number from Denise in a second. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Hillsdale as follows. The governing body hereby authorizes borough professionals and personnel to proceed with the Memorial Park Improvement Plan as prepared by Colliers Engineering at the complex, subject to the following. A, the proposed field lighting shall not be included in the plan, but will install the conduits. B, the playing surface on the field shall be a synthetic turf product. C, the plan shall include a coach box with an alternate bid.
Exclude?
Include.
Include?
With an alternate bid.
Include as an alternate bid, meaning it doesn't necessarily have to be constructed that way, but as the job is bid,
If we have
it would
more,
be an alternate, and if it's something,
if the overall bid, it comes below the actual number.
But the resolution
I'm
you,
changing it.
oh, you've changed it.
We are amending this on the fly.
Oh, that's what you're.
Yes, it's different. So that's
Okay.
why I'm reading it
ahead,
word
go
for
ahead.
word. All right, so back to C. The plan shall include a coach box with an alternate bid. D. The plan shall include playground equipment funded by grants and donations. The
So
mayor,
that would not be part of the $5.8 million.
correct, correct. So that will be on us, the professionals, the public, the staff, to go for grants and for
So it
donations.
shall omit playground equipment.
Shall include with grants and donations.
Mike, would that mean we would not put a accessible playground in Beechwood?
Oh, Beechwood?
Well, that was the, that was.
One at a time, hold on. One at a time.
But let me, because the focus was on Beechwood for the accessible playground,
Okay.
because it's bigger. We spoke to the rec director. So if you put what you're proposing in here, would that mean that we would rule off the table any effort to try to put?
We can have both.
You can have both?
Yeah.
Fine.
If we can get
Thank you.
a
Thank
grant
you.
for ADA.
We'll have both.
accessible- Why not?
Yep.
Yep.
That's good.
The mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to execute the contract and all documents pursuant to the directions set forth herein.
So just to be clear, it would be turf, it would be conduits, there would we would not bid lights.
No lights. Coach's box,
Coach's box.
and a playground
And-
equipment.
And a footprint for a playground, but not the actual, we wouldn't have them be bidding on equipment.
Correct.
Okay.
So with that,
Everybody understand what that is?
This is all subject to change. This could be altered as far as the different items that can be taken in, taken out. This is
Based
for the
upon
$6 million
bids.
bond,
This is
correct?
this is what we will ask for bond and then bid.
This is just capping us at what, 6 million?
this is a
5.8.
5.8. But what this is saying is you're giving me direction to proceed with more work on the type of turf, on the different grants, the design, and the whole thing.
It's not 5.86, because you're adding the 200 for the coach's box. You were at 5.8 without
That's
the
an
coaches.
optional, alternate
It's
bid.
an alternate. If we get
Okay.
a bid below 5.8 and we have more money,
Then you will.
Then
then
we
we'll
could,
do
then
that.
we could consider
It's
it.
not including.
We want to give you as much as we can
For 5.8.
for 5.8. So if you can ask for a motion, Mr. Mayor, and second, then we can have a vote.
Okay, so, first of all, does anybody have any questions before we do this regarding what the BA has outlined?
So the infill and everything else is still up for discussion?
Yes.
That's going to be based upon whatever the bid comes in it, and it's obviously going to have to be a very specific bid, to not just say,
Yeah, there,
I'm putting down a piece of rubber on top of concrete. I mean, it's going to have to be a real proposal.
But as far as specifying what fill we want, we have to do an evaluation of what works best for the town
Yeah.
first.
By that,
Yes.
by that point,
Yeah.
what we're really giving Mike authorization to do, if you choose to do so, is to move forward on something. Have Nick continue to do the work. Have the necessary research continue to be done. Interface with whoever we have to speak to. Learn more about the process. But we're, in a broad sense, yesing or knowing whether we're going to continue to talk about this forever. Okay, so this is, where the rubber meets the road, pardon the pun. And it appears that there is a resolution.
Okay, so
If the board-
if
if the
that's where we
council-
are.
25, 1,
Okay,
Can
so
you just reread A? Just reread A?
Sure. So this is Resolution 25-102, determination to move forward with Memorial Park Improvement Plan, Block 1301, Lot 1, and Block 1801, Lots 55 and 56. The governing body hereby authorizes board professionals and personnel to proceed with the Memorial Park Improvement Plan as prepared by Collier Engineering at the complex, subject to the following. A, the proposed field lighting shall not be included in the plan, but installing the conduits underneath the turf. B, the playing surface shall be synthetic turf product. And C, the plan shall include the coach's box as an alternate bid. And D, shall include playing equipment funded by grants and donations.
So, but I think that that's kind of ambiguous. I would rather have it say, we're omitting the playground equipment.
Okay.
And then it's responsibility of the municipality.
So we can
to go out and
change
Seek,
Grants, whatever.
whatever it is, somebody in the room want to give us a playground,
So
we'll
D, the plan
we'll go
shall,
with that.
so D, the plan shall not include playground equipment.
Everybody, we'll pass a hat around.
Shall not.
Okay.
Okay, so back,
So,
shall not include.
so that's 25-101?
102.
102.
So motion?
Okay, so can I get a motion on what we have described here? Is anybody interested in doing this?
Motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Okay. Will the clerk, is there no more discussion on this? We've had a lot of it. Okay. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazachong?
Yes.
Council President Oso?
Yes.
Councilmember Rucco?
No.
Councilmember Trojimuk?
No.
Okay, you got 4-2.
4-2, it moves forward.
And we'll be working with, Mr. Engineer, we will be working with no lights, product, coach's box as alternate, and no playground equipment.
Okay.
Thank you
Before
very
we
much.
take, I think we're going to take a 5-minute break. Before we do that, the PBA would like to come up to make a statement. Is there anyone specific that has been designated as your representative? Please come forward and make your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. I'm someone that has to read off paper, so.
It's okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and board administration. My name is Joseph Messner, and I'm a police officer in the borough of Hillsdale. I'm currently assigned to Pascack Valley High School as a school resource officer and serve as the president of Hillsdale PBA Local 207. Along with many members of the PBA, I'm here this evening to show support for the following statement. It is no secret that the police department has been operating without a chief of police for an extended period. During this time of uncertainty, 2 members of the department have stepped up, providing stability, demonstrating exceptional leadership, and addressing numerous challenges that have arisen over the past several months. These individuals are Lieutenant Travis Woods and Lieutenant Mike Camparelli, and Lieutenant Woods is here with us this evening. Each member of the department here this evening has made the effort to attend this meeting in support of our lieutenants. Lieutenant Woods and Lieutenant Camparelli have earned the respect of every officer through the years of working alongside us, including many of us before their promotions. Despite the uncertain future of our department, a situation that could cause disruption in any organization, all officers of the Hillsdale Police Department remain united. This unity is largely due to the dedication, knowledge, and mentorship that both Lieutenant Woods and Lieutenant Camparelli provide to each and every officer in the department. This brings me to my second point. Councilman Rucco, despite your campaign claims of being an ally to the police department, your actions have shown otherwise. This is not the first time this local has addressed damaging public comments you have made about the department. This evening, I'm here to publicly address a comment you made to the Pascack Press, which was published on January 17th and again on February 22nd. I also have an email you sent to Michael Allhan, a journalist with the Pascack Press. In this email, you question the future effectiveness and management of the Hillsdale Police Department. Most concerning is your suggestion to begin an external search for candidates if and when a new chief is appointed. It appears that you are specifically referring to the possibility of the borough of Hillsdale considering a police director, implying that you do not believe the Hillsdale Police Department currently has the personnel to manage itself. As PBA president, I have the opportunity to meet with other leaders in the borough, and I do not believe they share this view. This PBA will oppose any consideration of an outside administrator, especially when individuals have been employed here for over a decade that are extremely qualified for the position. It is disgraceful that Councilman Rucco would send an email to the Pascack Press expressing such an unqualified and damaging opinion about the potential future leadership of our department. In conclusion, Councilman Rucco, it is the opinion of the PBA that you are not an ally of the department, and your comments unjustifiably tarnish the reputation of an organization that we take immense pride in. I would like to end on a positive note. Every officer in the Hillsdale Police Department remains committed to serving the residents of Hillsdale at the highest level. Over the past several months without a chief, our department has come together in ways that have strengthened our community spirit and morale. We have proven that, despite the challenges, we can function effectively as a unified group. Morale is at an all-time high, and we continue to serve our community selflessly and without hesitation. I encourage the governing body of this borough to speak with residents, the residents we are proud to serve, residents who continue to support us every day. I appreciate everyone's time this evening, and I look forward to the continued dedication and service that this department provides to the borough of Hillsdale.
Can I ask the officer to?
Well, I would say I'm certainly going to allow the councilman to respond. I would just please, We have a lot of work to do tonight, and I didn't know you were coming. I'm certainly glad to hear from every department and have people come in. But this can't go on all night. So
I'm simply going to ask the officer to read the email that he claims I sent to the press in full.
The entire email here.
Read the entire email in the context of the point of discussion.
It's clear from the resolution that disciplinary charges have been initiated versus Chief Smith, none of which are characterized as criminal. The resolution doesn't say who initiated the charges, but it has been publicly reported in the Pascack Press that he was being investigated by the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. The press also reported that borough officials in December confirmed that the chief had been placed on administrative leave. Public safety is the primary duty of all governments. It's why governments are created in the first place. Therefore, those who initiate and conduct any investigation of senior public safety officers need to do so carefully and swiftly, weighing the evidence with the proper perspective and with recommendations that are appropriate to the alleged offense. The investigation has produced an outcome which I am not at liberty to describe pending litigation, but which conceivably could lead to a situation that might affect the management of the Hillsdale Police Force and the effectiveness of law enforcement in the borough for years to come. Now, the matter rests with how Chief Smith's hearing goes. Hillsdale has been without an active chief of police for far too long. If after the hearing process and any appeals are complete, Chief Smith chooses not to return or is not permitted to return by the mayor and council, it is vital that we promptly commence an external search for candidates.
Yeah, including anyone else who would want to apply. But thank you. Thank you for reading the full email.
All right.
No.
We could, but I'm not interested in wasting everybody's time here. I know there's other topics to discuss. We've made our statement, and any follow-up is more than willing to be sent my way.
I prefer not to do it in this forum, but I thank you for coming and make the statement. I thank all the officers for coming, and those who have things to do. I know it meant a lot to you to show up in unison, so I thank you for.
And thank you for everybody else being here as well. And it wasn't for this. That's all. Thank you.
We're going to move on to committee reports. You know what? Let's take a couple of minutes. We've been through a lot here. Let's take a couple of minute break. Can I get a motion? We get break for 5 minutes. Motion, please.
Motion,
break for five.
motion.
We're in recess for 5 minutes.
Send me a text.
We get the lights, we get the green light from the clerk? No lights. No lights? Everybody please turn off the lights. No. Had enough of that.
Okay.
I know, what she was thinking.
Progress.
You know what, that took me up. I'd just like to say, we're going to do committee reports. We're back in session. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, we're back in session. We're going to do committee reports. We're going to have to go to closed afterwards. So I want to get, can we get through this? We get the ordinances coming up, including budget. So I asked the members of council in their committee reports to be as brief as possible, but still being comprehensive if they can. If there is such a middle ground to reach, I would ask that. Let's start with Council President Clemente Oso.
Yeah, I provided my committee reports last week, and I will have a follow-up next meeting.
Okay, great. Councilman Coletti?
Sure.
We're going alphabetical.
Just regarding the fire department, so January there were 31 calls, February 21, about 4 more calls than there were in the same period in the prior year. Marine 1 and 2, which are the rescue boats, those were purchased in August of
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Lieutenant, could you ask them to please take it outside? Still got work to do here. Sorry, Councilman, I just want to.
Sure, just my mic was off. So January there were 31 calls, February 21, that's 4 more calls in the same period in the prior year. Marine 1 and 2, those are our rescue boats. Those were purchased in August of 2023. We're having an issue with the air pressure in them. Raymond DeGroat, our emergency management deputy and borough mechanic, has found the leaks. And because they were located on valves, they're working with Mid-Atlantic to try to see if they can get that covered under warranty. They're also starting their bloodborne pathogens and CPR testing for certification and pre-certification. That's begun and will occur over the next couple months. And Chief Farrell and Deputy Chief Kelly are working with the BA on a Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation grant. And that's an entity that provides life-saving equipment and prevention education tools to first responders and public safety organizations. General rule of thumb there is $15,000 to $20,000. However, they say anything over $45,000 will be denied. And then we will soon be scheduling our council member fire department committee meeting for the next quarter. We'll schedule that shortly.
Thank you. Councilman Fox?
I'm going to be very brief. I have nothing to report.
You don't get much briefer than that. Councilwoman Mazachon.
Okay, I'll go real fast. Okay, at last night's Board of Education meeting, several students were recognized for their outstanding achievements in robotics, basketball, and writing. The first Lego League robotics team was honored for their innovative work, a project that aims to help marine biologists study fish species. And competing in the regional tournament, the team placed 6 out of 21 teams in the robot game. Their hard work earned them a spot among the 5 teams advancing to the state finals. Great achievement. The boys basketball team, they celebrated an incredible finishing undefeated. So their hard work really played with heart and true sportsmanship all season long. And several students were also recognized for their writing achievements in the Young Writers Fright Club contest. The participants were challenged to craft a 100-word or less mini saga, and 9 of them were selected for a publication called Fright Tales from the USA. So these accomplishments highlight the talent and dedication and the creativity of our students. That's all I have.
I'm going alphabetical, so Councilman Rocco?
Nothing. I made my reports last week.
Okay, you're comfortable with that?
Yep.
Councilwoman Trujillo.
So short. Our esteemed director of our library would like me to again reiterate and point out that the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times are both available to residents on the website with your library card starting today. And I said that last meeting, but I'm reiterating it again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Borough Administrator Gasali.
We have one business in town, new business, David C. Tentiel and Associates. It's a marketing company moving to 100-101 West Street, Suite 10. We welcome them to Hillsdale. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Wow, that's very nice. Okay. We're going to move on to ordinances, and we have, the first one is the budget ordinance. 2508, introduction. This is the first read. The Borough of Hillsdale calendar year 2025 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. I'm going to read along it. Be it resolved that ordinance 2508 does now pass a first reading, and that said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the mayor and council in the municipal building, 380 Hillsdale Avenue, Hillsdale, New Jersey, on April 1st, 2025. And at said time and place, all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same. And the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Ridgewood News once, at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with a notice of its introduction and of the time and place when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage. May I have a motion? Motion. Second?
Second.
Okay. We'll have an opportunity to speak the next one. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzaccioni?
Yes.
Council President Oso?
Yes.
Councilmember Rucco?
Yes.
Councilmember Trohimuk?
Yes.
Okay, it is introduced. Thank you all. We're on track, and I thank you for it. We have budget introduction. We have let's go right through, well, we got 2509, budget introduction for resolutions 25092 through 25094. I guess we got to do them one at a time?
I would do them
We'll do them individually. 25092, it's a resolution waiver of reading in full the 2025 budget. I don't think anyone here wants to hear us read the whole budget. Well, at least not me. I don't want to do it. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Clerk, please read the roll.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzaccioni?
Yes.
Council President Oso?
Yes.
Councilmember Rucco?
Yes.
Councilmember Trohimuk?
Yes.
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
That is adopted. Resolution 25093, a resolution authorizing the extension of statutory budget deadlines, extending the 2025 budget introduction and adoption dates. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Mazzaccioni?
Yes.
Council President Oso?
Yes.
Councilmember Rucco?
Yes.
Councilmember Trohimuk?
Yes.
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Okay, we've got the 25094 introduction of the budget, the 2025 budget. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Will the clerk please read the roll?
Council President Oso?
Yes.
Councilmember Rucco?
Yes.
Councilmember Trohimuk?
Yes.
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzaccioni?
25094 passes. We're moving on to ordinance 2509, introduction. An ordinance establishing recreation department programs and summer camp fees in the Borough of Hillsdale, updated to ordinance 2503. Be it resolved that ordinance 2509 does now pass a first reading and that said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the mayor and council in the municipal building, 380 Hillsdale Avenue, Hillsdale, New Jersey, on April 1st, 2025 at 7 o'clock p.m. or as soon thereafter, and at said time and place, all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same, and the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Ridgewood News once, at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with a notice of its instruction and of the time and place when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Second. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Rucco?
I just wanted to say one thing. Could we, since this is an introduction, can we consider just dropping the language about the COVID 10% possible surcharge? It's not an issue
It's not
anymore.
going to be in there.
Huh?
Right. No,
Is this the one?
It's in here. I mean, we can amend the ordinance.
Yeah.
And take that line out.
Between now and the adoption,
second read.
would you consider removing it? Thank you.
I think we did that last year, Councilman, again. It comes
Yeah.
at your prompting as well.
But it lives on.
Lives on. Sure.
So that would be the instructions, then we would remove the 10%.
Yeah, I'll vote for it, yes, since you started the roll call, yes.
So is everyone clear on that? Okay, that's what you're voting on. Clerk, please continue to read the roll.
Councilmember Trohimuk?
Yes.
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzaccioni?
Yes.
Council President Oso?
Yes.
It is now introduced. And so we are moving on to the 2510, an ordinance establishing salaries for the Recreation Department. It's an update to Ordinance 2504. Be it resolved that Ordinance 2510 does now pass a first reading and that said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the Mayor and Council in the Municipal Building, 380 Hillsdale Avenue, Hillsdale, New Jersey, on April 1st, 2025 at 7 p.m., or as soon as thereafter, and at said time and place, all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same. And the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Ridgewood News once at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with a notice of its introduction and of the time and place where, when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Trohimuk?
Yes.
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzaccion?
Yes.
Council President Oso?
Yes.
Councilmember Rucco?
Yes.
Okay, it's said introduced. Now 2511 for introduction, a capital ordinance of the Borough of Hillsdale in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, authorizing the acquisition of a new pickup truck for the use of the police department in, by, and for the borough, appropriating therefore the sum of $55,000 and providing that such sum so appropriated shall be raised from the United States Department of Justice Equitable Sharing Fund. Be it resolved that Ordinance 2511 does now pass a first reading, and that said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the Mayor and Council in the Municipal Building, 380 Hillsdale Avenue, Hillsdale, New Jersey, on April 1st, 2025, and at said time and place, all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same, and the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Ridgewood News once, at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with a notice of its introduction and of the time and place when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage. May I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzaccion?
Yes.
Council President Oso?
Yes.
Councilmember Rucco?
Yes.
Councilmember Trohimuk?
Yes.
It's introduced. 2512 for introduction, an ordinance amending Chapter 292, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 4, Municipal Parking Lots of the Borough Code. Be it resolved that Ordinance 2512 does now pass a first reading and that said ordinance be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the Mayor and Council in the Municipal Building, 380 Hillsdale Avenue, Hillsdale, New Jersey, on April 1st, 2025, and at said time and place, all persons interested will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same. And the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in the Ridgewood News once, at least 1 week prior to said hearing, with a notice of its introduction and of the time and place when and where said ordinance would be considered for final passage. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazzaccion?
Yes.
Council President Oso?
Yes.
Councilmember Rucco?
Yes.
Councilmember Trohimuk?
Yes.
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
Okay. We are now done with the ordinance section and moving on to the resolutions. It's 25, the consent agenda is 25095 to 25100. Does anybody have a resolution that they would like to take off consent? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Will the clerk please read the roll?
Councilmember Mazzaccion?
Yes.
Council President Oso?
Yes.
Councilmember Rucco?
Yes.
Councilmember Trohimuk?
Yes.
Councilmember Coletti?
Yes.
Councilmember Fox?
Yes.
The consent agenda now passes. There is nothing on the off-consent agenda, is that correct? We will move on to the public comment section, in which public comment at this time, you can comment on anything, doesn't have to be on the agenda. Would anybody, John?
You're ready? Yeah, thank you.
We're ready, go ahead.
All right. Good evening.
Please state your name and
Council, and Your Honor,
Address? Yep,
Mayor
yeah.
Scheinfeld. It's
Believe me.
John Coring. I'm on Broadway in Hillsdale. For the past, I guess, about 15 years, I've been running the 18 and over softball. I was, needless to say, a much younger man at the time. Jimmy Campbell, who is still here, he runs the 35 and over softball. We love any improvements you make to the field, whether you decide to do turf or grass and dirt, we're okay with that. What we're concerned about is the need, and Councilman Osso and I have been talking a lot about this, the need to be able to play a men's softball game and a boys baseball game concurrently at Memorial Field. The last, what we had up on the screen, I know it's a work in progress. I know that the gentlemen from Colliers, the engineers, are always working on it. We certainly need a design that will be similar to what the current dirt and grass design is, so that games can be played concurrently. There are a lot of guys. You saw a lot of folks from softball who are here tonight. Currently, even the youth, some of the guys who were only 18 a couple of years ago are now in their early 20s are here. It's a huge program. There are, I would say, 350 young men and older men involved in the program. It is a huge social thing for us. It is something, it was the one and only rec program during the dark days of COVID that the town that we did. And I was in charge of keeping social distancing, and it was not an easy task, but I succeeded, and everybody was grateful for that. It is most of the guys that I see, the young kids and the older guys who come up through the softball ranks, tend to volunteer in town quite a bit. We play a pickup game every Sunday morning from around Easter through Labor Day at Memorial, which would go the way of the Etzel with the current design. But all the guys are guys who coach in town. A lot of us volunteer to umpire in town. I myself umpire in the Ladies League, which I hope will also have field space when Memorial is done. But it's not just softball. We do a fundraiser every year for the late John and Sarah, who was big into softball back in the day, who tragically passed away. And we do a great fundraiser, a great tournament every year in August to raise money for that. It's all done at Memorial. We have a great time there. I thank Kristen Martin for bringing up the softball earlier, and which she didn't have to because she doesn't play in the league, but I always appreciate that. I hope that when the final design comes, grass or dirt, turf, that we do something with rotating the softball, moving it back a little bit.
Sir, I'm sorry to inform you your 3 minutes is concluded.
So take that into consideration, folks. I look forward to it. Thank you, Borough Attorney. Appreciate it. Thank you, folks.
Hi, Eric Van Geisen. I live at 123 Washington Avenue. I live down the street from Memorial for 27 years, and I've seen the men's league. They use it the most out of just about everyone, and the fact that they wouldn't be able to play on it, or you couldn't have 2 games going at the same time, cuts the usage in half. That seems illogical to me. The way I see it now, we're paying $6 million for a football field. Just because it's been in the works for however many years doesn't mean it has to happen. Maybe that's the universe telling us that it shouldn't happen. I've watched in 27 years my taxes go from $6,000 a year to $18,000 a year. 300% in 27 years seems a bit excessive. We're bleeding, it seems. We've got the school now coming up, and the money, we can't spend money that we don't even have yet, that we think we're going to get in a year and a half, and expenses just go up. I have colleagues, I'm a teacher, young colleagues who are looking to buy houses now. I have one I work with every day. She can't even look in Hillsdale. Taxes are just too high. I don't have any problem with making the fields great, as good as they can be, but sometimes we have to say no. Yeah, I know that's not going to happen. It feels like this was kind of a foregone conclusion going in, but it's disappointing to me that we don't. It seems we just keep spend, and it's killing some of us. And thank goodness the lights aren't there, but I think we really need to make sure that the men's league is taken care of. They do a lot. I don't see anyone there more than them. And I would hate to see the baseball players not to be able to play at the same time. Like I said, I think it would be, we're losing utility instead of gaining utility there. So that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please come on up.
Robin Carter, 74 Washington Avenue. I want to agree with what we've heard about the men's leagues, and even though my husband doesn't play, and I don't play any softball, but I do walk around lots and lots, and especially in the nicer weather, although now in the cold weather too. And and I do see the men out there playing. I think it's a nice thing that we have in our town, and we talked about making the town, all the town gems. I think having recreation for the men feels like one of the town gems. I just wanted to address two other things. One is that when you did the resolution about bidding on the field, it didn't include two of the things that you mentioned. One was looking for the safest alternative for the turf, and I feel like that's an important piece, and I don't want that to kind of be like something we talked about but goes away because we're going to make a coach box or some other trade-off. That's important, I think, for everyone. We heard a lot about that. And the other is for the playground, that it would be nice to hear if somebody's going to take on the responsibility of sourcing, however we're going to fund that. I know it's not going to be out of the taxpayers' money, but just to see that as part of, like, yes, we're going to pursue that rather than we agree that's something that we're not going to bid on. Okay.
Thank you.
That's-
I just want to, just so you
Yeah.
know, we're going to get back bids on the field, what's going to be the infill and what the proposals are, and it's then up to the members of council to determine what that infill will be, and then we'll take into consideration cost, safety, et cetera. And I expect if we get multiple bids that we will get more than one proposal and then enter into a discussion to determine what works for Hillsdale the best.
Okay.
And however that's determined,
Sounds good.
okay?
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks.
appreciate it. Please, come on forward. Wait, well, we'll get you next. No, come on up.
I just, obviously, I'm disappointed about
Name?
the turf situation. And
Yeah, please, just your name again for the record.
Oh, Audra Orlando, Hillsdale resident.
Yeah.
But within that, I've done a lot of research, and one of the things I just want, if turf is going to be there, of course, I'm looking for the safest version of it.
Sure.
And I think, again, I would go with her on, that versus a coach box. I'd rather my kids have some additional safety. The one thing whoever is responsible for this sort of stuff, in the research, there's two areas of communities that thought they were buying PFAS-free turf, and they had, like, in Philly, because, baseball players have died and it seems to be connected to turf in the professional field and stuff. So they did do their homework, and in the end, it was independently tested after it was laid down. Even though they were assured it was PFAS safe originally, in the end it wasn't. And that happened also in New Hampshire. So I just ask you to be cautious and just make sure we're getting the, as much information we can on independent testing before and on fields that exist of theirs that gets tested after it's laid to confirm it may have some of these things. And obviously, I'm against the, the infill that's of the crumbled, because I shared the experience of that being all over our players all the time. The second thing I want to just mention, one, I'm happy lights wasn't approved for the people. Like, we're close, but we're not close to be affected by the lights, but there's a lot of people truly affected. I have mentioned it before, the number of lights is very much a consideration when you do consider lights in the future. The amount of them is something that I think could be relooked at. And the last thing would be softball. Again, we do see those softball players I know it's for the youth programs, but if we do it properly, it's not intrusive of that, it's inclusion of them. And I think that's just best for our community and everybody of all age brackets on what they like, recreation for all ages. And of course, I love the fact that a new playground will happen, possibly in the future.
Thank you.
Lorraine Thalman, Liberty Avenue in Hillsdale.
Welcome again.
Mine's a little off topic. It isn't, it has to do with the safety in town.
Okay.
Okay. I work in town. I see a lot in town. We have a safety issue at the stop sign at the intersection of Washington and Broadway. That's by the train station. That's when they come out of the King's Supermarket Shopping Center. People constantly run the stop sign. It's a joke. It really is. If they slow down a little, it's a miracle. They do run the stop sign. There is a lot of foot traffic in that area. We have children crossing that street, pedestrians crossing that street, commuters crossing the street, and also on that side of the street is a cow path from Westwood over. People don't use the sidewalk. I won't say never, but people don't use the sidewalk on the east side of Broadway. They use the cow path. So you have that little intersection there that they're always running that stop sign. We've had a patrol car that's been parked in the train station, but I haven't seen them go after anyone that has run the stop sign. And I think they think by their presence there, people will stop. They're not. You have the other part that is also in a very active area of the town, Patterson and Hillsdale Avenue by the TD Bank. That is a stop on red before you proceed. Well, that's another joke. If they slow down, fine. If not, it's just a cruise right through the light.
Sure.
I have another issue. That is Liberty Avenue. Liberty Avenue in Hillsdale between Kinderkamak and Cottage Place.
Okay.
It's used as a cut-through for students driving to and from the high school and their parents. It's not only the students, it's the parents who are an issue, exceeding the speed limit.
On Liberty.
A lot. Now, it's dangerous for the people in the area. That street is used a lot. The track team uses it for training. We also have pedestrians that use that. People like to walk around the park. That's Beechwood Park. We have joggers that use it. We have the students going to and from the high school, walking that street, and also the middle school students walk that street. And they're walking the street, and
I'm sorry to say your time is concluded.
You've reached 3 minutes. It's a 3-minute limit, so
okay.
you've reached it.
I just wanted you to be
Thank you.
aware
Appreciate it.
that something has to be done to protect the people of the town.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Come on up.
Gentlemen, I'm so proud of you.
How are we doing, Hillsdale?
Thanks.
How are you? My name is Jake Lutz, 787 Scott Drive. I'm a college student. My professor is going to be angry at me, but I'm going to read off my phone for this. Unlike some of my teammates who may be here or were here, I am significantly younger than some of the guys on my team. Sorry, Mr. Coring.
Wow, significantly. He didn't just say younger. He hit you.
I consider halfway a little bit.
Okay.
I haven't been in the men's softball league too long. I think this might be my 4th year playing, but my couple years here, I've had so much fun and made a lot of new friends in the community. Saying so, it may be a bit corny, but that shows that there is a very good history of adult sports in this town, which I believe is very essential for a positive and friendly community. Specifically, the softball league is only getting better and growing, and in my opinion, it is growing and getting better in my opinion, and I want to be around for a long time playing here in Hillsdale with my friends, whether it's with or against. I just want to make sure that with all the new plans, that recreational sports, youth and adult are all being taken into consideration when designing and coming to a decision. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hello?
Hi, how are you? Rich Lamb, 203 Washington Avenue. My wife and I have been here quite a few times. We have a lot of interest in this project. We live right across the street. We have young kids that hopefully will benefit from the plans. So I just want to, thank you for your dedication and all the things that you've taken into consideration with safety. Like with all the plans, turf, grass, whatever you're going to do, just make sure the safety is taken into consideration. Softball, I'm involved in softball. Opening day is going to be across the street, so I'm excited for that. Just, want to make sure that everybody's voice is taken into consideration, and thank you for everything that you've been doing for us.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hello, Ms. Martin.
Kristen Martin, 219 Washington
What was your
Ave.
name again?
Kristen Martin.
Oh, okay.
You want me to spell it? Okay.
No, I think we got that.
I-N. I'm first off requesting a resolution for resident overnight parking, so I know that that's in the
It would
works,
actually would have
hopefully.
to be an ordinance, but, okay.
Ordinance,
but-
whatever it
but-
needs.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I don't know. That's up to you to put it into work. I also wanted to comment, we did move in 1999. Similar plans have been, as you said, presented over the years and shot down for very good reasons. The lights, obviously, people have respected the community around that area and identified it as a residential area, not an area where a sports complex really belongs. Our taxes have gone up from $4,800 when we moved in to it's probably going to be over $20,000 now after the middle school. I do think that we're getting ourselves in a situation where if we keep raising these taxes, we are not going to be attracting young families. I know I joke with my kids all the time, they could never live in Hillsdale. They would never be able to. I couldn't buy a house now in Hillsdale. So for people like Jake and Mr. Coring and all of the people who have these wonderful adult sports in our town that keep our community together, I want to make sure that we keep that first. When we take a look at whatever we do with this complex, we have to keep them in mind. There's plenty of places for these kids. I know we want to pretend that this is like the end-all, be-all, that they have to have this field. We really have to make sure we maintain something for our adults, the women's softball and the men's sports. It's very important in this community that we have that camaraderie. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to be heard? Seeing nobody else, I'm going to close the public commentary, and we're going to move on to council commentaries. I get to go first. I just want to say thank you again to the DPW, they're gone, for really just doing an amazing job of addressing an emergency. Yes, they saved us some money, but there's so many other things with traffic, with safety, that they just jumped out and took care of it. Chopped that tree down, got it off the ground, got rid of a really potentially not only dangerous situation, but it would have been bothersome. I don't know what the word is. That just, I mean, we deflected a little bit. We have to go around and go to Washington Avenue a bit while they're taking it down. But they were quick, and so I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you to everyone in the community that came out, pro and con, for whatever the situation was with the fields. Your input was greatly appreciated. We've learned a lot in this process. It is far from over. There is a long way to go. We're going to learn a lot more as we go along here, and we'll do it together. So I thank you all for that. And now let's go council commentary down with Councilman Coletti. We'll start you. And remember, we're going to close next. So please, keep that in mind.
Yeah, no commentary.
No commentary.
I just wanted to commend the residents on both sides for their passion for this project. It really brings us motivation up here on the dais. We have a unique opportunity to create a gem, as Councilwoman Troy Muke said earlier today. It's been long overdue. Since the PD was here, I just wanted to thank them for their service and express my full faith in the department.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank my fellow council members for the thought and consideration that went into tonight's meeting. I think that everybody thoroughly reviewed all the information that they had. I, for one, spent weeks thinking about this, multiple conversations across all stakeholders, lost some sleep over it. Unfortunately, you're never going to get it 100% right. You try to make the best decision possible, and I think that my fellow council members spent the time, our RBA and our mayor. Unfortunately, our mayor had to break the tie here, but
Okay, it was this and a dog poop ordinance. Those
right,
are my two
right,
votes.
right. Those are the two that are on your record right
Well,
now.
no, I just want to know, show of hands, how many people have heard from Councilman Coletti at least 5 times in the last couple of weeks on this? So you've been very active on it,
Right.
and very.
Right, but I think that we.
Oso, sorry.
Yeah, I think
Oso.
yeah.
Sorry, my mind is gone at this time.
We know who you meant.
You know where I was going.
The vowel
Okay.
at the end of the name.
Yeah, it's
confusing.
tough, it's tough.
But
I see you, I think pizza, I'm ready to go.
That's right,
after
that's
this.
right. But I do think we have an opportunity here to create a gem, like Councilwoman Troymuch had said earlier. And, it's important for us to consider our finances into the future. There's a lot of challenges that lie ahead. We do have to maintain fiscal responsibility as well.
Mayor, could I just, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'd be remiss if I didn't actually thank Nick from Colliers and B.A. Gasali for their endless amount of hours of work on this. I think that goes unnoticed, and I want to just really show our appreciation for them.
Thank you. How'd you like to go? You want to go next?
No comment.
Mr. Price, no
No,
comment?
in the effort to get into
Okay,
our
sure.
closed.
Councilwoman Trujillo?
No comment.
Councilwoman Mazza-Chong?
Comment.
Well, seeing that, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn to closed session. Before that, to provide for a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provision of the New Jersey State Open Public Meetings Act. The subject is police personnel and affordable housing. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are in closed. I can't tell you when we're going to come back. If you've got nothing better to do, you